For over 200 years, these lumps of charcoal have taunted archaeologists. Turned to carbon by Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, they're scrolls from the only complete ancient library ever discovered, but touching them would destroy them instantly. Reading them was considered impossible, until 3 students proved everyone wrong. Using artificial intelligence and particle physics, they achieved what classical scholars called the Holy Grail of archaeology, reading text that hasn't been seen for 2,000 years without ever opening the scroll. The first word they decoded was purple. What they found next changed everything we know about ancient philosophy and opened the door to recovering thousands of lost texts. I'm investigating the breakthrough that turned the impossible into reality, following the evidence from carbonized papyrus to cutting-edge AI. Let's examine how technology just resurrected voices silenced by volcanic fire. Our investigation begins in 1750, when workmen digging a well in Herculaneum discovered something unprecedented: an entire ancient library, perfectly preserved by volcanic ash. The Villa of the Papyri contained over 1,800 scrolls, the only complete library to survive from classical antiquity. But there was a problem that seemed insurmountable. The scrolls had been transformed into solid carbon by superheated volcanic gases reaching 310 to 320 degrees Celsius. They looked like chunks of charcoal. Any attempt to unroll them physically would turn them to dust. For 273 years, they sat in storage, tantalizing, untouchable, unreadable. Early attempts at physical unwrapping destroyed precious texts. The 18th century papyrologist Antonio Piaggio developed a mechanical unwrapping machine, but it took 4 years to open a single scroll and destroyed many others. By the 20th century, scholars abandoned physical methods. These scrolls were written off as lost forever. Everything changed when Dr. W. Brent Seals from the University of Kentucky refused to accept impossible. For over 20 years, he developed a revolutionary approach called virtual unwrapping, using advanced imaging to read scrolls without touching them. But the Herculaneum scrolls presented a unique challenge that pushed his technology to its absolute limits. The fundamental problem seemed unsolvable. How do you read carbon-based ink on carbon-based papyrus? In CT scans, both the papyrus and ink have identical density. They're essentially invisible to traditional imaging. The text was there, but hidden in plain sight. The solution came from an unexpected source. Casey Handmer, a former SpaceX engineer turned machine learning researcher, made a crucial observation while analyzing Dr. Seals' 3D scans. He noticed something others had missed: subtle surface texture variations on the papyrus where ink had been absorbed. When ancient scribes wrote on papyrus, the carbon-based ink didn't just sit on the surface. It soaked into the plant fibers, creating microscopic texture changes. These crackle patterns were invisible to the human eye, but detectable by machine learning algorithms trained to recognize them. In March 2023, Dr. Seals partnered with tech entrepreneurs Nat Friedman, former GitHub CEO, and Daniel Gross to launch the Vesuvius Challenge, a $1.5 million competition to accelerate scroll decipherment. They provided high-resolution 3D scans and challenged the global research community to develop AI solutions. The competition structure was brilliant: $40,000 for reading the first word, $40,000 for the first passage, and $700,000 for the grand prize, reading 140 characters of text with 85% accuracy from 4 separate 4 square centimeter regions. Let's examine the scanning methodology that made this breakthrough possible. The scrolls were imaged at Diamond Light Source, the UK's national synchrotron facility, using a technique called X-ray phase contrast tomography. High-energy X-rays, 53 to 150 kilo electron volts, were fired through the scrolls, creating detailed three-dimensional volumetric data with sub-8 micrometer resolution. This meant every detail larger than 8 micrometers, about 1/8 the width of a human hair, was captured in the digital model. The scanning process generated massive datasets, multiple terabytes per scroll. Each scroll required days of continuous scanning to capture every layer and angle needed for virtual reconstruction. The breakthrough came when 3 student researchers developed custom neural networks specifically designed for this challenge. Youssef Nader from Egypt, 21-year-old Luke Farator from Nebraska, and Julian Schilliger from Switzerland formed a winning team that combined complementary expertise. Their approach used 3D convolutional neural networks, AI systems that can analyze three-dimensional data patterns. The training process was extraordinary. They used known fragments of open scrolls to teach the AI what ink patterns looked like, then applied this knowledge to the unopened scrolls. The AI learning process involved 4 critical steps. First, segmentation, identifying individual papyrus layers within the compacted scroll. The AI had to distinguish between dozens of overlapping surfaces that had been compressed together for 2 millennia. Second, surface extraction, creating flat, readable surfaces from the curved, folded papyrus layers. Imagine trying to flatten a crumpled piece of paper without touching it, using only photographs. Third, ink detection, training the neural networks to recognize the microscopic texture differences that indicated the presence of ancient ink. Fourth, character recognition, translating the detected ink patterns into readable ancient Greek text. On October 12, 2023, Luke Farator achieved the impossible. His AI successfully detected and decoded the first word from an unopened Herculaneum scroll, porphyras, porphyrak, meaning purple. This single word proved the technology worked, but it was just the beginning. The word purple wasn't random. It appeared in a philosophical context discussing luxury and pleasure, themes central to Epicurean philosophy. This gave researchers their first clue about the scroll's contents and author. By February 2024, the team had achieved the seemingly impossible, reading over 2,000 characters of continuous text from multiple regions of the scroll. The passages revealed 15 columns of ancient Greek philosophy, representing approximately 5% of the complete scroll. The text quality was extraordinary. Not only could they read individual words, but they could identify line breaks, paragraph structures, and even damaged areas where the papyrus had been torn or degraded. The AI was reading ancient Greek better than many human classicists. Every decoded character underwent rigorous verification. Multiple independent teams used different AI approaches to read the same passages, achieving identical results. This cross-validation proved the technology was accurately detecting real ancient text, not generating false patterns. Papyrologists, scholars who specialize in ancient manuscripts, confirmed the language patterns, vocabulary, and philosophical concepts were authentic. The writing style matched known works from the 1st century BCE, and the philosophical arguments showed sophisticated understanding of Epicurean doctrine. The computational requirements were staggering. Training the neural networks required powerful GPU clusters running for weeks. The winning team used custom-built deep learning pipelines that processed terabytes of 3D scan data to extract readable text. But here's what makes this achievement remarkable. Once trained, the AI could read new sections of scroll in minutes. What took months of computational training could then be applied rapidly to decode additional passages. This project pushed machine learning into entirely new territory. Previous AI applications in archaeology focused on pattern recognition in 2D images, identifying pottery styles or architectural features. The Herculaneum project required AI systems that could work in 3 dimensions, identifying microscopic texture variations in complex volumetric datasets. The techniques developed here have applications far beyond archaeology. The same principles could be used to read damaged documents, analyze medical scans, or examine any materials where subtle structural differences contain hidden information. The decoded text revealed something extraordinary, a previously unknown work by Philodemus of Gadara circa 110 to 30 BCE, the most important Epicurean philosopher of the Roman period. This wasn't just any ancient text. It was sophisticated philosophical analysis that had been completely lost to history. The passages discuss pleasure, music, and sensory experiences with remarkable sophistication. One key section reads, "As too in the case of food, we do not right away believe things that are scarce to be absolutely more pleasant than those which are abundant." This challenges modern assumptions about ancient attitudes towards scarcity and luxury. Philodemus argues that rarity doesn't automatically increase pleasure, a nuanced economic and psychological insight that predates modern behavioral economics by 2 millennia. The villa of the papyri belonged to Lucius Calpurnius Piso Caesoninus, Julius Caesar's father-in-law and one of Rome's most powerful political figures. His library reveals the intellectual sophistication of Rome's elite, containing works by major philosophers, poets, and scientists. Piso wasn't just collecting books, he was hosting philosophical salons where leading intellectuals debated ideas that shaped Roman culture. The scrolls represent the actual texts used in these discussions, complete with marginal notes and commentary. The decoded text shows evidence of active use. The AI detected correction marks, marginal annotations, and even reading aids added by ancient scholars. This wasn't a museum collection, it was a working library where ideas were actively discussed and debated. The philosophical content is remarkably sophisticated. Philodemus addresses complex questions about the nature of pleasure, the role of music in human psychology, and the relationship between aesthetic experience and moral development. These aren't abstract theoretical discussions, they're practical guides for living an examined life. This discovery highlights a staggering fact. We've lost roughly 95% of all ancient literature. The texts that survived to the modern era represent a tiny fraction of classical knowledge. The Library of Alexandria, the greatest collection in antiquity, was completely destroyed. Private libraries like Piso's were lost to fire, flood, or deliberate destruction. The Herculaneum scrolls represent our only intact ancient library. If the AI technology can successfully read all 1,800 scrolls, we could recover more classical texts than have survived through all other sources combined. This breakthrough proves that artificial intelligence can serve as a bridge between ancient knowledge and modern understanding. The AI doesn't just read text, it preserves context, structure, and even physical details about how the scrolls were created and used. Future applications could revolutionize classical studies. Damaged papyri in museums worldwide could become readable. Fire-damaged medieval manuscripts could reveal lost knowledge. Even modern documents damaged by disasters could be recovered using these techniques. The decoded passages provide new insights into Epicurean philosophy, one of the most influential schools of ancient thought. Epicurus taught that the goal of life was happiness achieved through pleasure, but not the crude hedonism often associated with his name. Philodemus's text reveals sophisticated arguments about different types of pleasure, the role of intellectual pursuits in happiness, and the importance of friendship in human flourishing. These ideas influenced Roman literature, medieval philosophy, and modern ethical theory. The text demonstrates that ancient philosophers used rigorous analytical methods. Philodemus presents arguments, examines counter-arguments, and builds systematic theories based on observation and logical reasoning. This represents sophisticated intellectual methodology that rivals modern academic standards. The philosophical approach revealed in these scrolls influenced later thinkers, including Lucretius, whose poem, On the Nature of Things, brought Epicurean ideas to Roman audiences. Understanding Philodemus helps us better understand the intellectual foundations of Western thought. This project establishes a new paradigm for archaeological research. Traditional archaeology focuses on physical artifacts, pottery, tools, building foundations. Digital archaeology can recover intangible cultural artifacts, ideas, stories, knowledge systems that were thought permanently lost. The success of the Vesuvius Challenge has inspired similar projects worldwide. Researchers are applying AI techniques to Egyptian papyri, medieval palimpsests, and even damaged modern documents. The methodology is becoming a standard tool for recovering lost texts. The scrolls represent unprecedented cultural wealth. Each decoded text is essentially a new classical work, as significant as discovering a lost play by Sophocles or a missing book of Livy's history. The economic value is impossible to calculate, but the cultural impact will be transformative. Museums and libraries worldwide are requesting similar AI analysis for their damaged manuscripts. The technology developed for Herculaneum could unlock thousands of texts that have been unreadable for centuries. Every decoded scroll changes our understanding of ancient thought. We're not just recovering individual texts, we're reconstructing entire intellectual traditions that shaped Western civilization. The ideas in these scrolls influenced art, literature, politics, and science throughout history. The Herculaneum project proves that some historical losses aren't permanent. With the right technology and sufficient determination, we can resurrect voices that have been silent for millennia. The 2024 Vesuvius Challenge aims to read 90% of 4 complete scrolls by year's end. Early results suggest this goal is achievable. Each new passage decoded provides additional training data, making the AI more accurate and efficient. Beyond Herculaneum, researchers are identifying similar collections worldwide. The Oxyrhynchus papyri in Egypt contain thousands of damaged fragments. Medieval monasteries have fire-damaged manuscripts that could be recoverable. The technology's applications seem limitless. The AI breakthrough that decoded Herculaneum scrolls proves that impossible often just means not yet achieved. 3 students with the right tools and sufficient determination accomplished what experts called fantasy. They resurrected voices silenced by volcanic destruction and gave us access to ideas we thought were lost forever. The artifacts reveal that ancient thinkers were far more sophisticated than we often assume. Philodemus's nuanced analysis of pleasure, psychology, and human behavior demonstrates intellectual rigor that remains relevant today. These weren't primitive ancestors. They were complex thinkers grappling with fundamental questions about how to live meaningful lives. This case file demonstrates how cutting-edge technology can serve archaeology, not replace it. The AI didn't work alone. It required human expertise in classical studies, machine learning, material science, and archaeological methodology. The combination of ancient artifacts and modern technology opened doors that neither could unlock alone. What other impossible challenges in archaeology are waiting for the right technological breakthrough? How many lost voices are ready to speak again if we just develop the tools to hear them? The investigation continues as we push the boundaries of what we thought was permanently beyond recovery. The scrolls are waiting, the AI is learning, and history is about to reveal secrets it has kept hidden for 2,000 years.